9,000 patients are in hospital with coronavirus, occupying 1 in 10 NHS beds. Built in a week, the new London hospital ready for 500 patients, rising eventually to 4,000.
There was Arctic lorries here last Tuesday, Wednesday, when I was first here, and now we've got fully ready to take some patients. Now there's still a lot more work yet to be done, but huge progress.
The death toll continues to rise, but the government's chief scientific advisor says the strict social distancing of the last week is having an effect. The government charters rescue flights for the tens of thousands of Britons stranded abroad. Exodus. Hundreds of thousands of people trapped by India's sudden lockdown struggle to get back to their villages. And the hospital consultant who's died from coronavirus, his brother pays tribute.
Is he a hero? Of course, just like every doctor, every nurse and everyone working at NHS.
And in London, the Nightingale Hospital creating thousands of critical care beds. The Mayor warns we will need many more. Plus, with planes grounded, cabin crews are asked to help support health workers at these temporary hospitals.
Good evening. There are currently 9,000 patients with coronavirus in hospitals across England, which means they're occupying around 1 in 10 beds. 1 in 4 doctors are understood to be off sick or self-isolating. An entirely new hospital built in a conference centre from scratch in just a week will be ready to take its first patients in just a few days. The Nightingale Hospital in East London will be ready for 500 coronavirus patients, rising eventually to 4,000. At that size, it would be the biggest hospital in the world. It's the first of a number of new facilities being built around the UK to take the pressure off existing hospitals. 1,408 people are now confirmed to have died from the virus in the UK. That's an increase of 180 people since yesterday. Our health editor, Hugh Pym. In Spain, 812 coronavirus-related deaths have been reported in the last 24 hours, as the number of cases continues to rise, with reported cases now outstripping those in China. Even tougher restrictions have now been introduced there, as Guy Hedgecote reports from Madrid.
The country's once buzzing capital is now a virtual ghost town. Spain has been in lockdown for over 2 weeks. But now that's been tightened further, as non-essential workers have been told to stay at home. The spread of the virus through care homes has been one reason why the death rate in Spain has...
Italy looks set to remain under lockdown for at least 2 more weeks, with the number of coronavirus cases there yet to show a decisive decline. The World Health Organization says the stringent measures should lead to a stabilization of the epidemic soon, but vigilant follow-up will be required. Nearly 11,000 people have died in Italy, the highest death toll from the virus in the world. President Trump says coronavirus guidelines such as social distancing will be extended across the US until at least the end of April. America's leading infectious diseases expert is warning the virus could kill up to 200,000 Americans. So far, almost 2,900 people are reported to have died with coronavirus. Our North America editor John Sobel is in Washington for us this evening. And John, is this extension of social distancing a belated recognition from the president of the potential impact of the virus?
Yeah, well, Fiona, I think that Donald Trump always likes to go with his gut rather than data, and you'd have to say it served him pretty well until coronavirus arrived. He said there'd only be a handful of cases. There have been many more. He said it would be no worse than the flu season. It is, and he said last week that he hoped to reopen America by Easter and that the churches would be packed. Well, he's walked back from that now, and you're seeing an intensification of the efforts. 1 million people, he's just said, have now been tested for COVID-19. And so the scientists reckon that is a success for them, that they persuaded Donald Trump. But there's also a personal aspect to it. The epicenter of this crisis is in the borough in New York City where he grew up. And he's talked about the refrigerated lorries arriving at the back of a hospital, loading up the dead bodies. And I think that moved him. He's also spoken about a friend of his who was overweight but was strong, who is now in a coma thanks to that. That all seems to have affected Donald Trump's thinking. And for a man who always likes to declare big wins, I thought there was something very reflective in what he said last night, where he said nothing would be worse than declaring victory before the victory is won.
In India, the government imposed a strict lockdown across the country at 4 hours' notice to stop the spread of coronavirus, with hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs and homes and struggling for food. Some have taken to desperate measures by leaving the cities they work in to walk hundreds of kilometres back to their villages. Divya Arya reports from Delhi.
Panic and chaos. These people who have moved across this vast country for work demand they be allowed to go home. A complete lockdown has meant they have no work and no money. In the country's capital, Delhi, the desperate head for their faraway villages on foot. Journeys so grueling, some won't make it home. At least 6 people have died en route. Others scramble onto buses, trying to get out however they can. To curb the movement of people, borders between Indian states are sealed overnight. But some, like Wajid Khan and his wife, insist they will march to their village.
What can the government do? My son is sick. If they really cared, they wouldn't have stopped people from coming out or stopped transport. Now if he dies by the time we reach, who will take responsibility?
Now the Prime Minister has apologized to the people, asking them to stay where they are.